You're watching the Smartcage Podcast with Todd Atkins and Andrew Benjamin of the We Are Rising podcast, the #1 PFL podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout for future episodes.
All right, this is Todd Atkins. I'm here with Andrew Benjamin, and what is your name?
P.SMMA.
P.SMMA. That's what you go by.
Yeah, that's my
All right.
TikTok name.
So
Palestinian Steel is what it stands for.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So the reason I brought him on is I saw he was doing some good PFL coverage on TikTok, actually. And there's not many people that are doing this besides me and Andrew and maybe one other guy that I saw on YouTube. So what I want to do is give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself so people are aware of why we brought you on here, kind of what you do on TikTok and whatnot.
So yeah, I'm P.SMMA. I've been starting my channel since last December, and I'm motivated to start it because the fact that I had like all this like MMA knowledge, and I've been watching like PFL and Bellator, and I feel like I'm one of very few content creators that actually talk about it. So like I want to talk about multiple different MMA, whether it's UFC, PFL, and MMA, and I have these kind of takes which like no one really discusses. So I started to make this channel, and over 6 months I've had like over 5K followers, and I'm always trying to grow my social media, talk about the sport I love, which is MMA.
And Andrew, people are probably familiar with you by now, but I'll let you kind of just tell people who you are.
Thank you for letting me eat my protein shake after BJJ class. I'm so glad I didn't get to go first. But yeah, my name is Andrew Benjamin. I'm the creator, host, CEO, whatever of the We Are Rising podcast, which mainly covers Japanese MMA.
We Are sorry?
Oh, We Are Rising.
Oh, We Are Rising.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And started it in 2018, around 2018. And because I saw that there was very little coverage of Rising going on, and I was like, let's try to hop on that bandwagon, because there's 1,000 podcasts for UFC, but there was none for Rising. So I was like, hey, let's do this. And still covering the show, the shows. I know Todd Atkins has his thoughts on Rising, but I'm glad he doesn't discriminate against me for having a little bit a show for that focuses on that. I don't like everything that Rising does, but I think right now, I think they're in a better spot, despite sometimes things that they do that I don't like.
Nice.
The reason Andrew brings that up is I lived in Japan from 2002 to 2005, so I went to pretty much every Pride show during those 3 years. And Rising, just for me, they haven't really. I want to see it get back to where it was in Japan, and they aren't really doing that.
Well,
it's kind of frustrated me.
Yeah, well, I think the breaking point is when Sakaki Barbaro said, "Hi, Kai, I can't. Let's go." They had to send off him for UFC.
Yeah, and I was like, "Come on." Exactly, but we won't get too much into that. Andrew and I, we kind of started this Smartcage Podcast PFL coverage. And so what we're going to do, and what we've been doing, is we've been covering the tournament fights specifically, not every fight on the card, because it just take forever. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to cover PFL's last show, and we're going to go through the tournament fights. So I'm going to kind of start from the bottom and go up. So we had the Oleg Popov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. So maybe since you're the guest here, P.SMMA, I'll kind of let you start.
So yeah, I didn't watch that fight because honestly, like I didn't watch all the main card fights because I was actually in Vegas International Fight Week, and I was busy. But that fight I did watch, and I did see like Oleg Popov has this pretty good like boxing that he pressures you against the cage, takes you down. Like I feel like Fedor's legacy lives on, especially like those like starry old school guys like Moldavsky, Popov, Nemkov. I really did like his pressure, especially how he's able to do it against former UFC fighters like Nascimento. And yeah, I think Oleg Popov, he's a pretty decent heavyweight.
Yeah, Andrew, go ahead.
Oh, it's so funny that one of the things I have said this, that, and it surprises me, all the Fedor heavyweight guys, I think, are maybe some of the least exciting fighters to watch. And it's so funny because you think that with Fedor and him being a heavyweight, they would kind of like absorb his. The only one who really kind of did, who kind of like absorbed the true Fedor spirit, is probably Nemkov. But I mean,
Yeah,
he started out.
Nemkov's really great. Yeah.
He started out as a light heavyweight though, then went up to heavyweight. But like,
There's
we'll
also
talk about.
Anatoly Tokov. You know Anatoly Tokov.
Is he heavyweight? I think it's
No,
middleweight.
he's
Right?
yeah, he's a middleweight. Yeah, never
Yeah,
mind, he's
but
middle.
like he's so good. But just I think it's funny that the heavyweights from the Team Fedor are not the. They don't seem that they seem to be the least exciting to watch, which is I think is ironic considering they are from Team Fedor. But listen, Oleg Popov obviously was a better fighter than Nascimento. Nascimento is just I hate to say it, but a fat Brazilian guy. I know. I think he was in UFC. I believe he was in UFC.
Yeah, he was, and then he last lost to Romanov. Like both him and Romanov in the UFC.
Okay, so listen, kind of wasn't a surprise that Popov was going to kind of do a was little strike, little grapple, little strike, and then that's basically it. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Now I want to get to the one that we probably want to talk about, which is the controversy between Moldavsky and Romanov. So again, PS, I'll kind of let you start with this fight.
So yeah, pretty much. I was kind of like pretty surprised with the no contest because I kind of felt like Romanov was pressuring him with the wrestling, took him down, but Moldavsky eventually he got back up, but was figuring him out because actually you saw how he would punch Romanov and he wobbled him, and then Romanov pushed him against the cage and then Moldavsky kneed him and then led to the no contest. But I was kind of surprised at how they let the tournament move on based on that because they're saying because he was winning the round, but in the meantime Moldavsky I thought was actually wobbling him doing the damage in that fight and I was about to figure out Romanov, so I kind of was surprised how they decided Romanov was to move on.
Yeah, maybe I'll say something about that. And then Andrew, you can kind of. I think because of the schedule, they just said, "Well, screw it. We can't have another fight between now and then. The finals. That we just have to kind of ad lib, so to speak."
Yeah.
I think that might be what they did. Andrew.
Yeah. Also, the other issue being that I don't know this was in Illinois. After every fight, there's the suspension, and I'm not so sure how they do the suspensions, especially if it's a tournament, and it's so there's that to consider. But the other thing I'm also happy with is that I'm glad this happened now rather than later because the other thing that also is that even if Romanov was losing, if he was even getting the shit kicked out and then he got kicked in the balls, whatever. Here's the problem is that I know it's hard to pick a winner based on one round and it going how long did it even last? 4 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, but here's the problem is that if they had given it to Moldavsky, then you're telling people in the future, oh, you know what? Whether you're winning, if you're winning, you can then just kick the guy in the balls or poke him in the eye, and we will pick you to win. I hope this sets a precedent that the person who gets, victimized, who gets the hit, they will lean towards, even if that person is losing, they get. I know that maybe they might be over dramatic there, or they might be faking it. You can't help that. But here's the thing: if you let the person who does the foul advance, I feel like you can take that could be severely taken advantage of in the future. So I hope that they codify it and that there's a precedent that this will set a precedent that the person who gets fouled will be the one who moves on because we don't want people fouling people just to not have to fight and then they advance.
Yeah, I'm up and now I'm gonna foul. Because I'm up 1 or 2 rounds. I'll foul.
I don't. I want to go home. I don't want to risk losing this fight. I know it's hard with a tournament and all that stuff. Listen, I mean, you remember the Pride tournament when Kosaka did the illegal elbow to Fedor, and even though technically it was disqualification, and Fedor should have won, he couldn't have move on, so they had to declare him the loser. So, this is one of those things that's going to happen. This will probably not be the last time it happens, but it's good that it happened now. So now we kind of have we have precedence and we now can show okay, we'll do this when going forward. Now, if it's 2 rounds, 3 rounds, you could go to a technical decision. That's fine, whatever. But I hope for the future, the person who gets fouled is the one who moves on if this happens again.
What do you think, PS?
I mean, personally, like, what I would score it is if it's foul like that, I would score it as like if it's not a DQ, as to who was winning the round prior to that thing. Because that's what they kind of did with technical decisions. But like, I would say, because that's kind of what they did. Like, they thought that Moldovsky was losing, so that's why they gave it to Romanov. But I would have done if it's like whoever was winning prior to that unintentional foul. If it's intentional, of course, DQ, and the person who gets DQ'd is the one who moves on. But what I
The
would
only
say is,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but what I'd say is at this point, if it's unintentional foul, make it uh so that who was winning up to that point. It's kind of like technical decision, I'd say.
The only problem with the term, so many people foul so much MMA now that like it's I think most fouls, I would say 70% of fouls in MMA are intentional, since there is usually no punishment for them. We see people get away with shit all the time that they should not get away with. And I feel like, I don't know. Listen, I'll give the benefit of the doubt to Moldovsky for this. Though I think was this no, I'm thinking of Popov, sorry. Yeah, it's the problem is that if you give it to the winner, I feel like then the winner, because then the winner can just take an out if he wants to, like, right before, 4 minutes, 30 seconds to the round. You know what? He knows he's winning. So I'm just going to put my fingers out and, oh no, I didn't mean to,
Yeah.
And then, so that's the thing. I know there's no easy answer to this. That's just how I would do it going forward, that the person who gets fouled, gets to go forward, even if they're losing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about Romanov and Popov in the final?
Interesting. Is this a rematch? Have they ever fought before?
No, never.
Oh, they haven't. Okay. Well, listen, we'll finally get a Russian versus
Moldova.
we'll get
Kind of like where Kutalaba is from, like Ian Kutalaba, like also like
Moldova.
from
Yeah.
Moldova.
Yeah. It should be interesting. But I presume that Romanov will force Popov to work. He's not going to be a guy who kind of just takes it easy during the fight. We've seen how he fights, and he's kind of just this guy is all action.
I think they kind of like him and Popov have kind of just the same styles. Basically, like both of you just like kind of boxing and push you against the cage and take you down. So I think they have a similar style between Popov and Romanov.
Mm-hmm.
Now we kind of get to a couple of interesting fights and an interesting final. So we got Shoeface, Antonio Carlos versus Simeon Powell. Good fight, but I think Shoeface ultimately got the better of him. What do you guys think about Shoeface?
I think Shoeface has like pretty good grappling in the like. I know like in the UFC, like him at middleweight. I feel like he should have been more like heavyweight within the UFC, but he actually has like pretty good grappling and submission skills, and I think he is pretty good. But I want to see him if he can do that against Sullivan Cowley, who beat Phil Davis in the tournament. Phil Davis is a very, very good wrestler.
Now he's going to face Rasta though, isn't he?
Who did?
Shoeface going to face Rasta in the next round, right?
No, Shoeface is gonna face Sullivan Cowley, the one
Oh,
who
okay.
beat Davis, and the one who knocked out Alex Polizzi.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Cawley and Davis, that was another good fight.
Yeah.
Evenly matched. Like I was telling Andrew, we post on this.
Like I heard there were like 3 robberies though. Like, would you say there were robberies? Because I didn't watch.
No. I think people say, oh, well, there wasn't a finish in this fight because me and Andrew we post on the We Are Rising Discord, and we got those guys are very evenly matched, Cawley and Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shoeface and Powell were not necessarily the same techniques, but pretty evenly matched in terms of both of them were good. So it's hard to get a finish in those instances. Cawley may have came close against Davis.
Okay, so I'll tell you. So the reason why a lot of people in the Real Rising podcast or the Discord don't like the want finishes. So few years ago there was this thing that MMA fighting came out with about like which promotions had like the most finishes, and like KSW or one was like number one, or and then one or KSW was number two, and like then it was like UFC, and then I think maybe Octagon, then PFL, then there was another promotion, and then there was Ryzen. And so a lot of them got angry that like Ryzen was like at the bottom, but that's because they don't run as many shows as they do as the other. They also haven't been around as long as the other one. So just by sheer numbers, also I don't know if they factored in the kickboxing matches that Ryzen does sometimes. So it's not like, listen, also the other people who get mad when there's no finish are the ones who lose money on bets because they made a parlay. So, that's the other reason why. So yeah, it's, this whole anti decision thing that's like come about is like, it's so ridiculous. Like, I listen, not everybody's Ilya Taporia. Not everybody can just knock out, Charles Oliveira in the first fucking round. I'm sorry, listen, that same card had one of the greatest third rounds I've ever seen for an MMA fight as well. And that fight went to a decision. So listen, you can't hate decisions and then cure, a fight that goes distance like, like that, it's hypocritical. Just, some guys just don't finish people. I know it sucks. And then there's some guys who just don't get finished. Phil Davis has won them,
Yeah, exactly. I remember him like he was taking big punches from Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's a very hard hitter, didn't get finished.
Yeah. So, that's just how it is. And,
I think this sets up. I'm sorry, go ahead, P.S.
I still think that Phil Davis and Corey Anderson, like I know when let the UFC they're top 15 light heavyweights. I think even by today, they can still be in top 15 light heavyweights right now because they're still like both like pretty good. See.
Yeah. So I think it sets up for an interesting match here. So you got Shoeface versus Sullivan Cauley.
The thing though is about Shoeface is that I don't think he's a better submission jiu-jitsu grappler, obviously, than I think Phil Davis. But I don't know if he has the stamina or cardio that Phil Davis does. Also, I mean, credit to Phil Davis not getting knocked out in this one. Carlos Jr. has been knocked out once, but he's never been finished other than that. But I feel if Sullivan Cauley can beat Phil Davis. I do have some issues with the fucking judging for that because there was no way that was a 30-27. I don't know, because that implies domination, and that was so Colby did not dominate Davis. I don't know.
They picked the right guy though. I think he did.
They picked the right guy, but it was the wrong numbers. And when people look at that, they're gonna think like, "Oh my god, Phil Davis got dominated by this guy," and that's not true at all. I hate that it was a 30-27. It should have been 29-28, 30-29, where the fuck. But yeah. I don't know. I think it's an interesting fight. Let's see if that Shoeface can put up with Cauley's hard concrete hands. And let's see if Cauley's able to ward off the jiu-jitsu of Shoeface.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting when you look at the tactics. Although I think Shoeface has underrated takedowns, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get them on Cauley.
He's also got a sneaky good guillotine. He's gotten a lot of guys with that guillotine. So I don't know what Sullivan Cauley's jiu-jitsu experience is, but this is the time to
because I think he's more like a knockout artist from the fights I saw him as more of a knockout artist.
Oh yes, yeah. But listen, you can only knockout only works if you hit the person. If you're on the ground, if he's on the ground about to get choked out, that power ain't gonna work, man.
Yeah.
And then we had another good fight. I thought Rasta and Jeffrey. I thought was pretty evenly matched fight.
Yeah.
I've been hearing that Jeffrey got robbed. Like, would you agree with this robbery or just like a close fight?
It was a hard fight to score because most of Jeffrey's offense was on the fence.
Yeah.
That's where he was taking the fight.
Yeah.
Rasta did allow him to back him up a little too much.
Yeah.
When they were in the open space, I thought Rasta was superior. But he kept circling with his back to the fence, So he was letting Jeffrey kind of dictate. So that's where I think you could see the fight being close because of that,
I also think Rasta outstruck Jeffrey in terms of volume, I don't think it's a robbery. And again, this. So I guess this is how a fight is, how you judge a fight. If it's by control, by cage holding, if you want to call it that, then I think you would vote for Jeffrey. You say Jeffrey wins, but if it's by striking, I would even say damage, volume, then you would say Rasta won. Listen, but again, I think they both had. I think it wasn't their first fight a close one. No, I don't think it was a close fight, but this one was much closer than that one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think the first time Rasta won the first round and the last two rounds, Aaron Jeffrey won.
I think, yeah, he got a gas because he had never been like past the first round or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but listen, Rasta looked good. And he's who's he face? Oh, yeah, Fabian. Okay,
Yeah,
got it,
so
got it.
this is setting up another interesting final. I think both of them are pretty interesting fights in terms of Edwards. Obviously, he was dominant in his fight with Silveira. Um, so you got Edwards, who's a little bit more well-rounded, like his brother.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe a little more aggressive than his brother, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Um, versus Rasta, the strength and the
Mm,
boxing, I guess you could say, of
yeah.
rock, more of boxing focused. What do you think, PS? What do you think about that
This one, I
matchup?
feel like it's one of those fights where I feel like can Fabian defend the takedowns because or will Rasta do the Johnny Eblen game plan, which is to pressure him with the wrestling, like he did in the second fight. So like, can Rasta implement the Johnny Eblen game plan and pressure Edwards, or can Edwards keep range, strike him, and nullify Rasta's wrestling attack?
Yeah, Andrew, what do you think about that final?
It is interesting. Listen, I never thought that, in the year 2025, the year of our Lord, that we'd be saying that Fabian Edwards would be on the finals of the PF. But I mean, yeah, this is probably, it's interesting that Fabian is kind of, well, let's see, he knocked out
Mm.
Impa, and then for this one, he basically grappled Silvera to win. Yeah, this will, I think Edwards probably wins the striking exchanges, but I think Rasa, if he chooses to wrestle, I think he wins the fight based on that
Mhm.
offense. I don't think he
He
can
can
outstrike
box, though. I
Fabian
think
Edwards.
Rasta can
He can
box.
box, but I don't know. It can. Well, I think Fabian is much more taller than him, much more rangy. I think Fabian will probably try to get in. So yeah, if Fabian can do that, kind of fight like how his brother used to fight, I think Fabian can probably win the
Yeah.
fight.
And you feel like Leon and Fabian fight the exact same way, more or less.
They do, yeah. But it's so funny that Leon though kind of is not fighting like that. Yeah, it's kind of you know, it's funny that I just that Fabian seems to be on the rise while Leon seems to be on the decline. Which you had asked me that 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, that's never going to happen.
Mhm. Oh yeah, so it's kind of like you can tell that they're brothers. It's like how Usman Nurmagomedov and Umar Nurmagomedov fight very similar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, all the Nurmagomedovs, they basically almost fight all
Yeah.
the same.
Hmm.
Even
Fabian's a little more stout than I think. Physically, he's a
Yeah.
little more stout
Like I
than
feel like after
Leon.
this, maybe he'll get his rematch against Costello Vantinas, who is fighting Eblin like in a few weeks.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I don't know why, but I thought that Fabian was much more tall than Rasta because Rasta's at 6 feet, but
Yeah.
it says here 6 feet, but it says here Edwards is at 6'1". I don't know six. I don't know why, but Fabian just looks so much taller for some reason. I have no idea
Yeah.
why.
I kind of want to talk about because
He's
we've
like what
done.
6'1", something like that. He's like
Hmm.
his brother's like 6'1", I believe.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe Edwards is about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the tournaments because we've kind of gone over the tournaments, and I think through all the weight classes, we got some good finals in all of them. So having looked back, both of you, maybe we could, PSL, I'll let you start. Tournament MMA, this PFL's giving us this, at least in the American sphere, in the American MMA scene, PFL's the one who's giving this to us. How do you think it's worked out so far?
Like how did the finals work out?
No, how the tournament itself, what do you think? Just overall,
Like I think it's
watching
actually
it.
like I think it's actually pretty good, but what I would prefer is that the main events become 5 rounds, but overall, I'd say it was actually pretty good. Because here it's like in the UFC, you get like, come on, bro, this guy gets a title shot, this guy gets a title shot. At least here, it's like, okay, there's a tournament, you're in a round robin, and that's how, and it kind of like is more objective in turning title shots. Whereas in the UFC, it's more like sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it's like not really doesn't make sense. Whereas in tournament style, it's more like makes more sense.
Yeah, I think UFC sometimes they just throw up their hands and they're like, we have to
Yeah.
do something, you know.
Sorry, PS. When you said about 5 rounds, did you mean like the main event for a? Do you mean the tournament matches are 5 rounds or the main
No,
event?
it's like more like main event for PFL should be 5 rounds. Yeah, is what I think. Like 5 rounds.
Are the finals going to be 5 rounds, Todd? I believe they are,
Yeah,
right?
because this is for the belt. Yes, I know that.
Yes.
I know
Okay.
the
Okay.
The other
I
thing
think
I liked about it is you get to see somebody 3 times in basically 3 months
yeah,
or 5 months.
yeah.
So instead of like we're in the UFC, you might see one guy, maybe 6 months later, you might see
Yeah.
him, maybe,
By
you
the
know.
way, do you actually know why the champions of last year's tournament, like Shamil Musayev, Timur Khizriev, Dovlechan, aren't fighting at all this year? Like, I don't have any fights booked.
Maybe, maybe they have them set up for something they're going to use them for.
didn't Musa
I would
wasn't
think.
didn't Shamil have like visa issues? Wasn't that why he was not in this tournament? I thought that was
Wait, what?
Hmm.
did
I
I
thought it was. I thought it was because of the fact that they didn't want to give winners the chance to turn, except for Gachi, but other winners no.
I thought that was maybe I'm misremembering. Yeah,
And this
maybe
is
I'm
something I talked to Andrew about on the Ryzen Discord. PFL has maybe 3 or 4 guys that you could say are right up there with anybody in the world, being Godsi, Musayev, um,
Yes.
uh, who else was I thinking of?
Ditreva Pacheka, who actually met last weekend.
Ditreva, yeah. Ibramov or whatever, the other guy
Ibrahimov,
from
yeah, he's fighting
Dagestan.
this weekend. Like, he's fighting PFL Europe. Yes,
Yeah, I
Ibrahimov.
mean, you got some guys
Also,
that are
there's Pinedo, who I really like, and then
U-
there's
Usman,
Sabatini.
Usman and
Yes,
uh,
Paul Hughes.
Paul. So they have, I think
Evelyn.
PFL's
I'm actually,
quietly.
yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Evelyn too because he has like this kind of pressure
Yeah,
local mentality. But basically, the people say, "Oh, he lost against Impa," but I think he actually won because literally, like, if you look at that fight, he was breaking it. But yes, like the second he took the shots, he's like, "Okay, he made the best shots." Keeps pushing forward and moving forward, and Impa was like, if it was 2 more rounds, man, I feel like Evelyn would have beaten Impa because Impa looked like he was about to gas, and Evelyn's pressure, which is like, kind of like the Marab style, is what makes it very dangerous.
yeah, yeah, Andrew. I think PFL's quietly building up. And
Mhm.
Bjorn Rebney did this with his tournaments. PS didn't get a chance to see those, but they kind of organically produced a lot of good fighters at the time.
Yeah,
I'll say this as well. What I like is that we are having new names or new blood beating older blood or people that had made the finals or you expect to make the finals. We're also having people that were last minute subs like Chad Gene, I like to call him, who is
yeah.
now beating people who you know, I didn't think that he was going to beat Jason Jackson. I thought
Me
that
too.
Jason Jackson,
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that Jason Jackson was going to walk through him. No, Dad Gene is I think it is he's the the Pineda Cinderella story for this one because Pineda was the same one when he debuted. I believe he was a last minute replacement. I think it
Daniel Pineda, we're talking about the one who went to the UFC.
was it him?
Are you talking about Daniel Pineda or Jesus Pinedo? Which one?
Oh, maybe I
Jesus is
gave
the
my
defending
Pineda's
champion.
mixed up. It was one of
Yeah.
them. One of them was like a last minute replacement, right? It was either Pineda or Pinedo, maybe. Oh my god. It
I
was
know the
whoever
one
was
who
the
knocked out
Peruvian, whoever was
Movlade
the
and
Peruvian
Jeremy
one,
in one
whoever was
night.
the Peruvian guy, the Peruvian one. Almost they're both
Jesus
Peruvian.
Pinedo, yeah. El Mudo, yeah, yeah. I love that
Yeah.
guy.
So yeah, that's what I like about the PFL is that the people who either get injured, can't miss whatever, they'll sub in people who have some previous PFL stuff. Kevin Lee thing, I'm a little bit, I kind of don't like that he kind of skipped the line, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I also know from a promotion's perspective why they put him in because that
Hmm.
got people talking.
Yeah.
But I also I'm seeing this. This is definitely like one of the most meritocratic tournaments that I've seen in quite a while. So
Like,
you
what do you
know,
mean by meritocratic? What do you mean by that?
well, the people who are winning move on.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are winning are moving on. There's no bullshit. There's no, they're not pulling one shenanigans. They're like, oh no, actually, deep in the contract it says you can't do this move, so we're reversing the decision and you lose. Or Rise is doing this thing now. I'm kind of on the fence about it, where the people who win the first round get voted. Who gets to get the fans get to vote who moves on to the next round, and whoever loses the vote, it becomes an alternate.
Yeah, I don't like it.
So that means that the person who's the most popular, they get to have the most boring fight in the world. But if it's Hiroya, he's just going to move on to the next round because he's one of the most popular fighters on the roster. And then someone who gets a knockout in 10 seconds may not. Uh, yeah. Also, if you're if you're not Japanese, you're gonna have a significant disadvantage as well. So yeah, this is what I mean by merit. It's very merit, whatever you know what I mean.
Meritocratic?
Meritocratic.
Yes, meritocracy.
Meritocracy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing the people who are earning their wins and moving on, and yeah, that's what I like to see. There's none of this bullshit with rankings number 1 to number 2, 3 to 5, whatever. Oh no, who's a challenger, who's a number 1 contender. We're not seeing people moving up in weight classes and not fighting other people. This is just they're just delivering. It's been I would say about 8% smooth sailing so far with the tournament. So good on PFL that's worked out mostly so far.
I have Manny Rodriguez, who's like the Spanish announcer for PFL. And one thing he said when I interviewed him that I think we can uh, find examples of in this season or this tournament, this first set of tournaments, is he said tournaments allow underdogs to become stars. So you brought Thad Jean in, last minute replacement. Here he is in the finals.
Yeah.
Collie, I think, is kind of building a name for himself going through this tournament.
Last year, yes.
Yeah. So, but this year, what I'm saying, I think Colley's kind of built a name for himself. Thad Jean's built a name for himself.
Also, I'm sorry, Todd. Just want to
Yeah.
quickly also as well. The people who were in previous tournaments, and then they lost, they got eliminated. They also now, it's great to see them again because it's like, oh, okay, maybe this will be their year. Get to see them evolve as an MMA fighter, or whatever. It creates interest. It creates something that's interesting and substantive in MMA that is not going on right now. It's great when you have the best of the best fights. It's great when you have some weird two Polish meatheads just smashing each other in the face. If you watch KSW or whatever, but this is definitely something that MMA really needed for a long time. And I was a fan of the point system. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I get it. But I now think that PFL has found something right now with the way that they're doing this tournament. And so far, it's been good so far. And it's produced great fights as well. One of the things we talked about was, are these people going to be playing it safe because they know they're going to be fighting? And remember, the first rounds were pretty much all finishes for a lot of those matches.
Well, yeah, PFL 1 was amazing, especially I think all were finishes and great fights except for the Logan Storley one and then the Movli Kabalayev.
Yeah. So that's that's one of the things that I think was what our big worry. Can the fights be as good? It can be good and entertaining. But yeah, they've been turning out to be good and entertaining so far.
But I do think they're producing some interesting storylines. I think Storley versus Gene. Either guy who wins, Storley, it could be like, okay, the older guy who's never been champion, now he's champion. If Gene wins, you got a young star, kind of came out of nowhere. I think Carmouche and Bishop. I think Carmouche will win, but if Bishop wins, there's another example where you had someone go through 3 fights, and now they're going to fight, maybe Dakota or, Carmouche looks unstoppable in this tournament, though. I mean, just so strong. That would be an interesting. Carmouche versus Dachiva would be interesting because Carmouche is strong as hell, man.
Yeah, I think the winner of that fight the winner of the Carmouche Bishop should fight the winner of Dachiva Inaba next month.
Yeah, I think those that would be an interesting fight. I don't, Inaba's underrated too, so be interested to see how she does against Dichiva.
Hmm.
Yeah, Dichiva.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're having and then you have like a Godsey. A Godsey was already established,
Yeah.
but I think maybe outside fans who are watching this get a
Oh
chance to
yeah.
see him. You
I think
know,
that's pretty good. I talked to many PFL guys on TikTok because they say, oh, only UFC PFL guys suck, so like they kind of like make fun of for watching PFL. But like, I feel like they actually like don't understand the fighters very well, and just like they assume that just because you're not in the UFC, then you suck. Because when in
you're
reality,
right.
there have been many fighters. Like for instance, Yuri came from Ryzen, uh, Kayla Harrison came from PFL. There are many fighters outside promotions who I think can be top UFC fighters.
Yeah,
Well, it's
I
also because
mean,
you're also
Kevin Lee
posting.
came in, Godsey wiped the floor with him in no time flat.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then
You
they're
know,
but
Yeah. Shane
UFC
Burgos
prop
too, Thiago Santos.
yeah,
UFC propaganda has made anybody is now if you were cut from UFC that you sucked. It's not like, oh, you beat a UFC fighter, you beat a UFC washout. That's the propaganda now that's paraded
Yeah.
around, unfortunately.
yeah.
But oh, sorry, I was also going to say that PFL also has, you mentioned Eblin before as well,
Mm.
and AJ McKee as well is also fighting at the South Africa show. They have a great slew of fighters, and
Dennis
yeah.
Goltsov. Yeah, I like Goltsov. I actually watched his fight against Timothy Johnson live. I was in PFL Nashville last year, so yeah, so I watched that live.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and they're finding people in MENA, Africa, Europe. We're gonna be
Yeah.
seeing King
Pacific.
Lazy King fighting again. They just announced that he's fighting again.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and
So
Pacific now too.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
what I would like to see, and I think where they're going to go, is they'll have tournaments in all these regions. So you'll have champions in each
yeah,
weight class from these particular regions.
and now we can
And
watch all
then
this
you'll
stuff
have
on the
one
app.
big tournament
Yeah, we can watch it all on the
where
app now.
all
So
the
so
regions are represented across all the weight classes. And now you got a
Mhm.
real world
Yeah.
championship of sorts.
yeah, but the great we get to watch on the app now. We get to watch it all on the PFL app now, which makes
Really?
me so
Wait,
happy.
this app's gonna have like the PFL fight this weekend because I do want to watch PFL weekend because there's no UFC, so no conflicts. So I might as well watch PFL.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
Well, guys, I want to appreciate taking time. P.S. I'll let you let people know where they can find you on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. Just P.SMMA. I run a TikTok channel. I'm also active on Instagram, P.SMMA IG. So I post content on MMA, which is a sport I really love, whether it's UFC, PFL. Sometimes I post about one fight, even Ryzen. So I do like to post about my love for MMA.
Oh, also, I want to give
Yeah,
you a
oh,
chance to
yeah.
tell people not to go to UFCX because I saw you made a TikTok about that. What
So
was the
yeah,
reasoning behind it for you?
okay, yeah. So last weekend I had a great time in International Fight Week. I hung out in fighter hotels. I went to some meet and greets, very, very nice. But UFC X, it's good for a first time, but if you go UFC X again, it's not really worth it because look, when I went there, you had to wait hours or long time in the line just to get in past security point, and then once you're there, okay, it's cool. You can see the UFC walkout. You can see the UFC octagon, the weigh-ins, the power slap activities, or some punching or those punching strengths. But if you want to go for a meet and greet, especially for a fighter, like especially for someone like Marab and Volk, you have to wait hours in line. And instead of doing a cutoff line saying, okay, if you're past this point, leave. Or if you're from this point, you'll have your chance to meet and greet. Like people just wait for like hours, having this false hope that they meet the fighter. Oh, it's over, and then the security rushes the fighter away. So it's not really good for meet and greets because especially like you'll be waiting for a long time, big lineups, and then then the fighter leaves. For instance, here like I had a friend who was waiting 3 hours for the Izzy lineup, Israel Adesanya, and couldn't meet him because it was so packed. So it's not the best thing for the meet and greets, and plus you can't take video selfies and really talk to them. Just a quick picture and leave.
Yeah. If you want to meet the fighters, you got to stay at the hotel, from my experience.
Yes, yes.
I stayed at the hotel in Dallas for 277. I mean, you could meet anybody you wanted.
Hmm. Yeah, like me, like actually like met Joshua Van when having dinner at a Chinese restaurant or lunch during fight day. I'm like, hey, what's up, Joshua Van? And that's how I met Faber. I met Jonathan Denise. I met like a lot of these like fighters.
Yeah. Now, Andrew, as always, where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, you can find the We Are Rising podcast, the YouTube channel. Just type in We Are Rising podcast, and it's the first thing that comes up. You can follow the Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, at We Are Rising Pod. So yeah, that's I don't know anything about TikTok. I've downloaded it once only to try the Shrek meme, the Shrek kissing meme, and I've deleted it right after. So we don't have a TikTok, we don't have an Instagram, we keep it old school. And so yeah, it's just YouTube and X.
Keep it simple.
Twitter. And yeah, also join the We Are Rising Discord where we talk about all MMA, not just Risings, everything, boxing, whatever it is. What's the backyard, the thing that they do like in the South, wherever that crazy promotion is with like the truckers fighting each other.
Yeah. Street beefs.
Street beefs.
Street beefs. Yeah.
We talk about that. So yeah, we talk about everything. There's no discrimination at all.
Nice. By the way, like I made a post today which got some mixed reviews saying that Gaji Rabadana can beat Charles Oliveira. What do you think about that?
I agree. I agree.
He does now. Yeah. After seeing, if Islam can submit him, and if he can get knocked out that easy by Ilya, then yeah, Gazi kind of just wipes the floor of him. I don't see how.
I've always felt that Charles lost to the higher level guys he would fight. Yeah. When he fought the elite, he would lose to those guys. Islam, Max, Ilya, whoever else.
By the way, what do you think about J.J. Wilson, by the way, the Maori kid?
Great fighter. I think he's great. He had that great match with Mansour Barnawi, that great MMA match that turned into a grappling match. I think JJ is
like, I want to see a rematch Gaji, because the first time he fought, they were actually very close. Like he's very skilled. Like, he's got nice striking, nice BJJ, good grappling. So like, I want to see that rematch, right? Because he pulled out. That's why they put Kevin Lee.
Yeah, I think I'm disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed that they went that Kevin Lee was a replacement for JJ Wilson.
Yeah,
I was really looking forward to that rematch. I still think Gazi would have won, but I still think it would have been a good fight.
Like, I think it could have been Alexander Shabli, but I heard he's suspended till October because of some minimal amounts of banned substance in his test. Did you hear about that?
Well,
Shabli?
Todd and I were talking about this, and I was like, just get one of the people who previously lost in the tournament. Like, I think that's fair. I just didn't like that Kevin Lee. I know why they picked Kevin Lee, because of the name, and that's what got people's attention. But I also I think people got to I think you got to give it to somebody who lost previously, who got eliminated. I think that's the meritocratic thing to do.
By the way, last weekend, did you see the Biagio Ali Walsh upset loss?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I saw you talking about that. All these grands.
Yeah, literally second upset. Literally, the Biagio Ali Walsh, and the first one was Qasim Qasimov losing to Justin Wetzel. It's more so, I think, because of the fact that people didn't know Wetzel and didn't know Ronnie Gibbs. That's why they just assumed, because Qasim's one of Habib's students, and Biagio Ali Walsh, Muhammad Ali's grandson, they're gonna win.
So I'll say this. I hope that. So I was thinking about like what PFL is going to do with this Ronnie Gibbs guy. I'm like, well, first of all, if they do I hope they give him another fight. But I also hope they don't do the Bellator thing so Bellator used to do this thing where, like, if the prospect or the guy that they wanted to win lost, they would then give the guy who won, who beat him, like an absurd fight way above their level. Like when the guy who beat Aaron Pico in his debut, Zach Freeman, then he choked him out, and then they had Zach Freeman face Henry Corrales after, and he got fucking mauled. So wow. I hope they'll do that with Ronnie Gibbs. Ronnie Gibbs beat, listen, it's clear that PFL is behind Ali Walsh, but Ronnie Gibbs won this time. Ronnie Gibbs won. It was a professional fight. They both had the same record, so it wasn't like a mismatch. But clearly, the promotion is behind Ali Walsh. Hopefully, Ronnie Gibbs gets some sort of thing. I hope it's not a one and done, because that's what Ryzen does that a lot. Yeah. I don't like that, where the person who beats their guy usually doesn't get a fight after. It's like, it's like we're not. Don't call us. We'll call you. So hopefully, Ronnie Gibbs will get some sort of something, some sort of follow up fights. Just hopefully, like, they don't put him against.
And also hope like Biagio Ali Walsh bounces back and like how Peyton Talbot lost because he couldn't really wrestle. Yeah. Maybe same with Biagio Ali Walsh could improve his wrestling so much in the next fight. Maybe
So this was his second pro fight. This is not a fraud check. You can't get fraud checked in your second.
Well, it's kind of like Clarissa Shields. She came in and fought Abby Montez. And Montez beat her.
Mm.
Remember that?
You can't tell. You can't tell how someone's career is going to go when they lost.
Yeah.
I think Clay Guida lost his first 2 MMA fights, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with Jack Della Maddalena. Actually, I know Jack Della Maddalena did too, and he's champion.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I know. If people are MMA fans are the most fickle fucking people on earth. They're like one loss and
well, yeah, like the Impa fight. People were like, oh, he lost to Impa. He lost to Impa. First of all, I don't think he actually lost. I gave rounds 1 and 3 to Eblen, and plus, as I was saying earlier, Eblen showed that he had potential in that fight because he took the best punches and kept on pressuring. It's kind of like Marab style. Like he's not so much the best at everything he does, but it's more so his pace and pressure is what breaks guys.
I argued too much about that fight, so I'm going to just say I plead the fifth on that match.
Yeah. Well, guys, appreciate it as always. Me and Andrew are, we fired up about this podcast we're building, PFL. Appreciate UPS taking time with it. Would love to
nice
bring
meeting you
you
guys.
back.
Thanks for having me on your podcast. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, would love to have you back on. More PFL,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, as always, people checking this out, subscribe, check out their content. And as always, until next time, see you later.
Is this aired on YouTube, by the way? Or
yes, what? Yes.
Oh, awesome.
All right. As always, people, till next time, see you later.